the draft grades are out. Everyone's
Yes.
grading drafts. It's so stupid.
Thank you.
Like, okay, you want to grade a draft? 2021. You can now grade that draft. Texans, A+.
A+ for 2021?
Yeah, you had no first and second round pick. Your first pick in that draft started for like 2 years for you at quarterback. He's a backup on your team. Nico Collins is awesome. Brevin Jordan is a pretty good player.
A+. I'm not giving it an A+.
A+.
I'm not giving it an A+.
A+.
It was better than we thought it was last year after what Nico Collins did. That draft is entirely built on what Nico Collins did in one season, 3 years into his career.
I'm not ready to give Davis Mills credit for starting 2 years. Someone had to start on the Houston Texans.
Joe, Davis Mills made me want to stop covering football.
Same.
Only Brock Osweiler has made me more miserable. A+, Joe. Jeez, you are the son of a teacher.
Soft graders.
2 teachers, clearly.
Soft graders.
Participation trophy generation began with his
kids
parents.
Let me ask you a question. Of all the quarterbacks taken in that draft,
No quarterback left behind.
Davis Mills is one of 2 quarterbacks that's still on their team.
Yeah, he doesn't start.
Him and Trevor.
How about this?
Trevor Lawrence.
He's one of the 9 quarterbacks that are now backups from that draft.
Just saying. And he's the best of them all.
It's not the he's back up to Case Keenum. What are you talking about?
Davis Mills, better than Zach Wilson.
Trey Lance got traded for a 4th-round pick.
Yeah. Davis Mills, better than Trey Lance.
I don't know. Could the Texans trade a 4th-round pick? Or trade him for a 4th-round pick? Because Trey Lance went for a 4th-round pick last year.
No, but the bar has been moved. Because Mac Jones and Justin Fields. No, Justin Fields and Mac Jones were traded for 6th-round picks. So I would say, could you get a 6th rounder for Davis Mills?
The Texans draft class was an A+.
Didn't Mac Jones make the playoffs?
Easy
as the starting
grader.
quarterback.
Stop.
Hey.
And
you know what Davis Mills did? Davis Mills gave the Texans C.J. Stroud, and he gave the Bears Caleb Williams.
We don't need to,
A+.
We don't need to.
He's the A+ in my book.
We don't need to stop to talk about Davis Mills ever again. Listen, let's get
goodbye,
into
Davis Mills.
Let's get into the actual draft grades because you do this drive-by out of nowhere. The 21 Texans had an A+ draft grade. Goodness gracious, Joe.
It's the margarita.
Joe, you're like 2 sips in. I see the perspiration of that drink and how far up the glass it went. You have had maybe 4 sips.
I'm making crumbs.
You're making crumbs.
So
This is Drunk Joe. That we're learning him on the fly.
So Renee Bugner, I think that's how you say it, put together this list of 20 draft grades. It's not everyone, but it's all the big names for the most part. He did it like as a GPA. The Texans ended up the 20th overall draft grade. The highest they would get is an A- from Chad Reuter and from the Fox Sports staff. The lowest they got was a C- from Ryan Dunleavy, who I don't know who that is.
And The Athletic as a whole raked them 28th out of 32, but didn't give an actual grade, and also said the lack of first-round picks hurt them.
So they're probably looking at them as more like how much overall talent did you acquire?
I think so.
In the draft. That makes sense, because like when you don't have a first-round pick, you're typically, if you look at a draft that way, it's going to be viewed differently. But overall, everything's pretty much the same. And this is part of the reason why drafts are dumb, is that
draft grades, right?
Draft grades are dumb, is that unless you're the Atlanta Falcons, no one got a D, basically.
It's rare that you even see something lower than a C. But yeah, you look at the grades across the board. You listed a bunch of them. Some more. Sharp Football, B+. Sporting News, which still exists, B. Walter Football, B-. Everyone's grading around the same spot. And what's funny is you really don't know for 3 years.
Because there are more Nico Collins of the world.
Exactly. I mean,
than there is of there's more Nicos than there is CJs.
It usually is a year 1 to year 2 jump that happens for NFL players, but Collins, to his credit, stuck with it and made it happen in year 3. Awesome. But that's why you got to wait sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's weird that we go so crazy with the grading right after it's done, because it's generally based off of opinions that we had either before the pre-draft process or opinions that shifted during the pre-draft process because there was so much content out there about draft prospects. And it seems to change by the week and by the month without any football actually being played. This is one of the reasons, Joe, that just the entire NFL draft, obviously it has value. Credit to the NFL for monetizing it and turning it into a television event. But we have turned it into this unbelievably overhyped and overreacted to event. And I think the byproduct is you've got a lot of people out there that are talking out of their ass about it. And then they give grades like this, which sort of makes you realize, yeah, they don't want to give anyone too good of a grade because it'll age well. And they don't want to give anybody too bad of a grade because it'll age poorly and they'll get made fun of, like a lot of people who graded the Seattle Seahawks draft in 2012 an F.
I saw
where they got
that.
Bobby Wagner and they got Russell Wilson.
I saw one that was going around. Old Takes Exposed always puts this one out there. Someone gave, I think it was NFL.com, gave the Kansas City Chiefs a C- for drafting Patrick Mahomes. Like, that's a tough one. That's tough, and that's why it is. Like, I heard Daniel Jeremiah on his podcast talking about this. Like, he had to basically go to the NFL, to NFL.com, and be like, guys, I'm done with this. Like, this is the stupidest thing we do, and that's arguably the number one draft expert we have in the sport is Daniel Jeremiah. And if he's telling you the draft grades are dumb, then they're dumb. I do find them interesting. Like, I look for more for the negative often than the positive, because the positive to me is what you were talking about. I think it's like most of the time they're reinforcing their own opinions. So like a lot of the, like some of these A's I would find, or like the B pluses for the Texans, they would say, well, I had Kamari Lassiter as a much higher, as a second round pick, and the Texans took him. So that to me is one where it's like it clouds the grade too much.
It confirms your opinion that already existed that you're on an island for.
Yes. And that's what I don't like about it. Now, I wish more of these were available, like this one we're about to hear from Mel Kiper, because it's much more obviously it's going to explain it much better than just like a 2-second blurb in which you can tell people were given a deadline just to pump this out. Here is Mel Kiper and giving his draft analyst and grade, not just for the Texans, but why they had the best draft in the AFC South.
Wow. Let's go to the AFC South, where we had a range from the B+ to the C+. The B+ was the Texans. The C+ was the Titans. Mel, I actually think people would be surprised that the Texans, without a first-round pick, would land the highest grade in the division. What did you like the most about what Houston did?
Well, I liked a lot of I like the players they drafted. Kamari Lassiter, I had talked a lot about on this podcast. He's in the hip pocket of those receivers. He plays a physical brand of football. Yes, he didn't run 4.45. Who the hell cares? These 40 times drives me crazy, Field. A 4.5 is a bad 40 time now. It's how do you play? You can run a 4.5 and still play faster. You can run 4.4 and play like a 4.6 guy. Blake Fisher, had he been back at Notre Dame for another year, would have been a guy we were raving about. Kalen Bullock, I know Matt Miller, I know you talked about him a lot. I'm not as high on him, but in the third round, that's not bad. I love Cade Stover, former linebacker, defensive player at 265 pounds, ran a 4.65, caught the ball, blocked. He's kind of a throwback type of player that Texan fans are going to love. And guess what? C.J. Stroud's reunited with Cade Stover. I love that they did that. They didn't forget about one of C.J. Stroud's key guys in Cade Stover. Then you go to later in the draft. I thought Jawar Jordan could be this year's Keaton Mitchell. I didn't think he'd run a 4.56. I thought he might run a 4.4. He didn't, but he played fast at Louisville. He was a home run hitting back who could catch the ball out of the backfield. Then you get a Marcus Harris late. At one point in time, we were talking about Marcus Harris maybe third or fourth round. So I thought they got some good football players, but I thought some of those guys early were a little underrated. Kamari Lassiter being one of those, and I really think that Cade Stover is going to be a key guy for C.J. Stroud. So both sides of the ball, they got help for a team that is ready to roll, maybe into the Super Bowl. Who knows? So again, like I said,
deep steel blue pilled, baby.
Roll into a Super Bowl.
I got a big old pants tent here in Mel Kiper. Talk about it that way. Mel Kiper, you sit down. You've earned yourself a nice slice of pumpkin pie for breakfast, which he does.
Jawar Jordan, this year's Keaton Mitchell. Yeah.
I can't believe
hearing
he
that.
eats pumpkin pie for breakfast. What a bizarre human being that man is.
I actually respect it. Pumpkin pie is very good.
It is very
Especially
Does he have
cold.
whipped cream with it? Yeah.
I think he does,
I think
yeah.
he has whipped cream with it.
My question is how often does he do it?
every day?
Every day?
I think
Pretty
it's one
good
of the,
shape.
yeah.
He's in pretty good shape considering he does that every single day.
Can you
how
buy
old
pumpkin
is he?
pie year round like that?
Yeah.
He's 63 years old and he eats pumpkin pie.
Look at his hair. It's immaculate. You know?
It is
A
immaculate.
little parrot-esque, but hey.
Yeah.
That plume be rocking. And if he's going to say this about the Houston Texans draft class, hell yeah.
Hell
I'm
yeah.
all in.
Yeah.
Because I only want to hear the good things, like everybody who's looking at the draft grades. Mm-hmm. That's why it's great that there's so many options available. Now, they generally range from B- to B+ because everyone's too much of a pussy to give them a C or below.
Yep.
But hey, if you are looking for someone to kiss the ass of your favorite team on draft day, you have so many options and you will ultimately be happy. And Mel Kiper just made us happy.
Mel Kiper made us happy.